Moving on, then we are to item number 6, information action on our monthly budget report. Deputy Superintendent Scott Jones.
Madam Chair, Deputy Superintendent of Operations Scott Jones. The monthly budget report follows with the start of the fiscal year 21. The first month of fiscal year 21 is July. Utah State Board of Education is financially sound to meet all obligations, all known obligations, and all pending or other bills that may come forward. Subject to any questions or concerns related to this particular agenda item, which is the monthly budget report, I'd like to continue on with some additional details on CARES Act funding status.
Are there any questions on the monthly budget report? Okay, I see none. You can continue.
Okay, so if I could have, I think Jeff is driving, if you could pull up the backup, which should be the first backup, should be talking about the CARES Act funding. You can go into the backups. Now to get into the, let's see. Okay, well, for board members, in your backups is the Utah CARES Act baseline MOE data. So there's maintenance of effort requirements for CARES Act. So what of this is that the Governor's Office of Management and Budget, specifically Jacob Wright, who we work with, you know, you've heard his name quite a bit, had to submit or was required to submit or pursuant to the CARES Act's maintenance of effort requirement and guidance from the Department of Education. So this is informational to you. It does show you that we are online with all aspects of CARES Act funding, including allowability. We also provide for your benefit in the backups a status of the funds for the CARES Act. Because further down, after we conclude with the discretionary report, I'll turn it over to Sarah Young for some additional requests for use of CARES Act funding. So we'll make this subject to any, questions or concerns from board members, Madam Chair. We'll make this, CARES Act reporting an integral part of the monthly budget report, since there's so much, since it's such a high profile amount of money, and what the purposes and allowability of the money is very important for both disclosure to you as the board and the public. So subject to any questions or concerns about related to status of funds for CARES Act funding, I'll continue to the discretionary funds report at your direction, Madam Chair.
I see no questions. Please continue.
Okay, for the discretionary funds report, that also is included in your backups. So if we can, if you'll just, go to the upper right-hand corner, it shows the status of funds or balances that are remaining. I've received no requests to date for use of such, funding as the federal mineral lease, although I have talked briefly with the Chief of Staff Stanley, about some proposals that will come forward to the board in later months for use of federal mineral lease money. Madam Chair, subject to any questions about the discretionary funds report by any board members, I'd like to turn it over to Sarah Young for additional or coverage of the item number 3 within the monthly budget report for requests for CARES Act funding.
Okay, I see no questions. Sarah, if you'd like to move forward.
Thank you. So Sarah Young, Director of Strategic Initiatives. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to present to you today a couple of opportunities where we're, as staff, requesting the board's authorization for allocation of CARES Act funding related to some of the statewide community needs due to COVID-19. So the first item in the backup speaks to a funding request for broadband. So this has been something that has been definitely on the radar for all of our leaders here at the agency, as well as our districts and our charter schools, making sure that our K-12 households and families have access to broadband to be able to access the distance and remote learning opportunities that may have been implemented due to COVID-19. So as a component of that, we are fortunate that our partners at UETN have authorized an initial amount to help us make awards to our districts and charter schools to be able to provide internet solutions to their families. These are solutions that each local entity is developing specific to their community needs and the partners that they have available in their service area. We are asking that the State Board of Education consider authorizing an additional $1 million of the coronavirus relief funding that was provided to the agency in the last special session to be able to increase the total awards that we can make to the field. This is a competitive grant that is being scored, and the additional funding would bring us to being able to make up to $6 million in awards based on the local requests. So I'll pause in case there are any questions related to this specific action item.
Board Member Earl?
Yeah, so my question is, so this is in conjunction with the other funding that's going on through the UETN. Is that accurate, or is this, okay, and they expect that project, do you know when they, I don't know, maybe you don't know, maybe Patty knows, when they expect that project to be completed, or is this just in association with that?
So this is actually a set of grants that will go out to our LEAs. So as USBE, we are going to be the fiscal monitor and recipient of all of the grants. So it is funding, the UETN funding will come to our agency for administration in these grants. And we are just asking that the state board consider authorizing an additional $1 million of our coronavirus relief funding to be able to increase that total award value to meet all of the grant requests that have been received.
So if I'm understanding you, then the funding is available for all LEAs, is that right? Or just for those that are having difficulty accessing in more rural areas of the state?
So the funding is available for application to all LEAs. We did put the opportunity out to the entire field. It did require that you submitted an application, and we did note for the field that it was a competitive application, not knowing if we were going to have enough fiscal resources to meet the comprehensive needs within the community.
All right, thank you.
Board Member Belknap?
Thank you, Chair. So, Sarah, I guess my question is, we have $5 million in this competitive grant, and is it all used up now? And if it is, where has the money gone that they have applied for? And I don't necessarily mean to what place, but what was it used for?
Yes, thank you, Board Member Belknap. So the application process actually is still occurring. We had applications that were due to our office by 5 p.m. yesterday. We managed to turn those applications around. They are currently with reviewers. So we're not in a space having made awards yet, or even declared awards to the greater field. We were kind of also waiting for an action step related to this request to help that, those reviewers determine the scope and scale of awards related to these requests. In regards to the solutions, each of the LEAs were proposing their solution to be able to meet internet needs at the household level. That's going to look different depending on the community. Some of them are looking at partnering with their local provider to provide internet to the home in partnership with the Lifeline program. Some of our LEAs are looking at procuring hotspots to be able to check out individual students and families as they see fit. We at the state level provided guidance associated with seeking information about how they're identifying their students in need and what solution they're proposing to that. But the solutions do vary depending on the population and the services that are available in that area.
Follow up, Chair?
Yes? Yes, go ahead.
Oh, thanks. Sorry, Chair. I just should have done it. So, Sarah, how do we know we need another million if we haven't even finished up distributing the 5 million?
It's a great question. So this was definitely a proactive request in regards to being able to note the request from the field and that we're kind of in process. The desire of staff bringing this before you today was that if we had that value associated with doing the initial round of awards, that really helped us in regards to providing these services to students and families as soon as possible. We certainly recognize that most of our families, if not all of them, are back in a school environment or will be back on Tuesday, and that not having internet access each day makes a difference. So rather than waiting until the application cycle concluded and then bringing this to you next month, realizing that that would impact families' access, we're being proactive about bringing this to you today. If it is something that the board decides they'd like to hold on, we can certainly bring it back for consideration once we have additional information. But I just wanted to explain kind of the thought process is really about getting those needed services for broadband into the households as soon as possible, recognizing the start of the school year.
Thank you.
Board Member Cannon?
Thank you. My question for Sarah is similar to what Laura was asking. I recall about a week or so ago reading a newspaper article about San Juan County and attempts to get internet down to kids in that area. And as I recall, it was going to take something like $3 million. It was a huge amount. So my question for you is, do you have has USBE undertaken to evaluate where the needs are and what kind of a price tag we're looking at? Because I believe as everything shut down in March, suddenly the inequities of online learning were becoming more and more evident, and it was becoming more and more of a need. So I'm just wondering if you know what it's going to take and how much we can do with the money you're asking for.
Thank you, Board Member Cannon. So it's a great question. So I'm going to try and answer it kind of in two different framings. So the first one, to the question about San Juan School District. So the concerns that are happening in the San Juan School District and related to those households really has a key fundamental foundational question of infrastructure. So we are very fortunate to have the Utah Education Telehealth Network as partners and leaders for broadband and infrastructure within the state of Utah. And that is a very robust infrastructure, although there are certainly pockets of the state where that infrastructure is still being developed and built out, and San Juan is one of them. So in terms of the funding that was approved, that is actually more about infrastructure related to having even access to the services if that's something individual households choose to participate in. The second piece of that is that once you have maybe a service provider in your area, it's a question of the cost for an individual family to engage in those services. And that's what we're trying to address with this specific grant opportunity, going with funding direct to our LEAs. So really looking at, even though you may have a service provider in your area, if financially you are not able to engage in those service opportunities, you still may not have access at your household. And that's really where we're looking to partner with providing the services. In regards to the last question, what is it going to take for the whole community? That is something that myself and others at your office are working on in partnership with the Utah Education Telehealth Network, with the partners at GoEd who are over broadband, Rebecca Dillig and her team, as well as working within the providers who are definitely partners in this effort in moving it forward. I think the broad scale solution is going to be a larger price tag and much more comprehensive than the specific grant that we have here today. But the grant serves to be able to address the current needs for families for this school year, recognizing that it's going to take several more months to develop a comprehensive and long-term state solution.
Board Member Belknap, do you have an additional question? Nope. Okay. Okay.
No.
Okay, thank you. Are you, you just disappeared. Your name disappeared. Okay, hey, Sarah, continue. Sorry.
So the second item that is being proposed within this broadband scope is also the request for authorization of up to $75,000 in regards to allowing USBE to seek quotes and procurement associated with an external evaluation of the K-12 broadband hotspot grant program. This is a unique opportunity for our state and for our schools and districts to be able to offer hotspot solutions and opportunities. And we really want to make sure that we use this not just to meet the current community need, but to really inform, to Board Member Cannon's question, what those next steps need to look like in terms of what works, what are comprehensive systemic solutions we could implement at the state, and be able to get feedback about this current iteration towards that. So this would be a one-time cost associated with procuring an external evaluator to go and gather that data about the successes of the program at the household level, which is data we just don't already have at our office, to be able to then support future larger scale state plans associated with broadband in K-12 and more comprehensively for the state.
Are there any questions from board members? Board Member Earl?
So I guess I'm trying to fully understand this. We haven't implemented this yet, but we're bringing someone on, and is it an individual or an entity? And then we're going to pay him $75,000 to promote the program? I'm not sure I'm understanding that. Or is it help me understand. I guess because I'm thinking when a district receives, let's say $100,000 for this program, wouldn't they be accountable to us to have to verify how they're using that? So that's why I'm asking about why are we bringing in an independent auditor to, what is their role actually?
Yes, thank you for that question, Board Member Earl. So as a point of clarification, so this would be a procurement that we would engage in if this is approved today. So we have not, and for any of these things, taken any action steps related to these funds and are waiting for approval within that space. As far as the next steps, we would go through our procurement process in regards to getting competitive quotes associated with a scope of work which we would define at the state level in regards to being able to articulate the successes of the broadband grant program as well as, the challenges or weaknesses associated with the solutions that our LEAs have put forward. A couple of just points of clarification. All of our LEAs are accountable to the State Board of Education related to this funding and are committed to, it's a reimbursement program, so they will be submitting their costs. And that is information that we will definitely have to be able to inform the successes of the program. The information that we would not have through that and that this particular evaluator could help us gain would be doing more so local level solution surveys. So for example, the state may know we were able able to procure, so many hotspots specific to one district's implementation and solution. However, we may not know how effective those hotspots were in regards to actually meeting the needs of the broadband for the individual students. Did they have the access that they expected? Were they able to stream video associated with participating in learning opportunities? What were the successes and what were the barriers to those implementations? Because we know that anytime we engage in a new effort and a new program in K-12, we really want to be cognizant of the feedback from our individual students and families to be able to inform what a potential next step could look like. So this would just provide us an opportunity to have an entity who is an external entity, so not your staff, be able to, really objectively take a look at all of that data, in securing the data as well as the analysis of the data, to then provide a recommendation back to the state board, as well as any other entities who may be interested in what future solutions and resources need to look like.
I don't see any other questions on that item, so if you want to continue. You can continue. I don't see any additional questions on that item.
Okay, so that concludes the presentation component associated with the request for the authorization of the broadband effort. I will just clarify that this would be up to the funds that would be used. If we end up in a space where our LEAs are not requesting more than $5 million in regards to awards, and or the review committee does not deem enough of those proposals competitive, we certainly would not be using those funds. It's just an authorization if that needs case arises. So I can move to the third item associated with CARES, but it is different than broadband. So Chair, how would you like me to proceed?
Hold on, I do have one question. Board Member Cannon?
I was just wondering if you would accept a motion. The motion would be that the board approve USB staff setting aside up to $1 million from the Utah K-12 Coronavirus Relief Fund to award local education agency grants for K-12 broadband hotspot solutions.
Is there a second? Okay, the motion before us is the board approve USBE staff setting aside up to $1 million for the Utah K-12 Coronavirus Relief Fund to award local education agency grants for K-12 broadband hotspot solutions. Is there any discussion to that motion? Board Member Earl?
I just want to make a clarification. There's two motions there, but we're just pushing the one right now, right?
That was one
accurate?
motion
Okay,
that was
thank
made.
you.
Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. Board Member Belknap.
Aye.
Board Member Bolter.
Aye.
Chair Huntsman.
Aye.
Okay, that motion passes with one no vote. Board Member Hanson was a no. Okay. Did you have an additional motion? Okay.
Approve USBE staff setting aside up to $75,000 from the Utah K-12 CARES SEA 10% set aside to pursue quotes and procurement for an external evaluation of the K-12 broadband hotspot grant program.
Is there a second? Okay, the motion before us is that the board approve USBE staff setting aside up to $75,000 from the Utah K-12 CARES SEA 10% set aside to pursue quotes and procurement for an external evaluation of the K-12 broadband hotspot grant program. Is there any discussion to that motion? Board Member Belknap?
Yes, thank you. Will that $75,000 include hiring a person, or are we hiring an outside entity?
according to Sarah Young earlier, it's an outside entity that would be hired.
Chair, how long would this work take?
Sarah Young, would you be able to answer that question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So we would move forward with the procurement for the scope of work to basically last for 12 months. So from time of award until close of the award, allowing for a month after to be able to kind of finalize the analysis of data and submit final reports.
Thank you.
Board Member Lear?
I'm not necessarily opposed to this, and I think this is a question probably directed to Sarah Young. I'm not necessarily opposed to this. I just am wrestling with the timeliness. If this, to me, this feels like a temporary need. If there's some plan for this to endure longer, is that part of it? Or otherwise, I feel like it's just, we won't get the information and especially information and analysis till perhaps the crisis is passed. What's the thinking on that?
Yeah, thank you, Board Member Lear. So in regards to the request for evaluation, we would ask for a mid-year as well as final year report in terms of helping to inform our actions. I can say that as a member of your team at the agency, we've actually received quite a bit of outreach from different legislators as well as other state entities that are interested in finding solutions for making sure that our students have access to the digital learning materials at home, and specifically related to broadband, knowing that is a pain point associated with if you don't have connection, you just can't make use of the devices and the digital tools that our districts are preparing and offering to families in light of COVID-19. So recognizing that those requests are coming into our office, this particular evaluation would really give us an opportunity to provide concrete feedback related to this early pilot investment to be able to inform those broader state discussions and solutions that are being considered for not just K-12, but for the larger state.
Thank you.
Board Member Hanson?
Just wanted to clarify to everyone that I'm not against broadband. I just think the allocation of the $1 million was premature, and that's why I voted no on that. Also on this one, I would hope that we could just ask the LEAs who are receiving funds to report on the effectiveness of their usage, and don't see a need to hire someone. I have concerns also about the timeliness, as Board Member Lear expressed.
Chair Huntsman? Chair Huntsman, do you have a question on this item?
I'm developed bad habits here by muting myself all the time. So, okay, this is a question for Sarah Young regarding the timeline. 12 months is kind of a long time for these. I think for an IT type hotspot evaluation, and I did hear in your previous answer that there'd be some kind of an update. Is there anything that we can do in the procurement, on the procurement side, as you get proposals and that, to see if that time can be streamlined to fewer months than 12? Because the data, the value, if this motion passes, would definitely give LEAs a leg up, especially in certain areas, on how to and what to do in their procurement to better serve our students. And when the dust settles in this realm of broadband and hotspots and et cetera, we're still in the education business, and these LEAs will definitely utilize the broadband and hotspots for from homework and students that are ill and et cetera, et cetera. There's definitely a betterment that's going to be coming to our great state. And so I'm just wondering, I'm going to go back to my question again is there anything we can do on the procurement side to entertain through that a shorter time frame than 12 months?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair Huntsman. So as your staff, we are very much at your direction in regards to being able to craft a scope of work that you think is appropriate to both the timeline as well as the expectation for return on that information. So none of that has been crafted to this point, and we're certainly open to that feedback to be able to inform what next steps would look like if those are deemed appropriate.
Thank you.
Board Member Earl?
Yeah, I don't think I'll be voting for this either. I just have concerns, especially $75,000 if this is pandemic money, so to speak, or the CARES Act money or funding for that. I think waiting just a little longer to make sure we've got that funding and other needs don't come up, for me would be a priority. And then maybe towards the end of the year, if we wanted to look at this. Thank you.
Okay, see no other discussion. The motion before us is that the board approve USBE staff setting aside up to $75,000 from the Utah K-12 CARES SEA 10% set aside to pursue quotes and procurement for an external evaluation of the K-12 broadband hotspot grant program. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. Board Member Belknap?
No.
Okay. Board Member Bolter?
No.
Chair Huntsman?
Yes.
Okay. Will the ayes please raise their hand? Okay, we have Board Member Newell, Board Member Cannon, Board Member Davis, Board Member Haynes, Board Member Gravitt, Board Member Marsh, Chair Huntsman, and I'm an aye. That motion passes. Lorraine, do you need any additional information on that vote?
Just, did everyone else vote?
Yes, everyone voted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sarah, did you have anything else you wanted to add? I believe you had some additional.
So we do have one more item for consideration related to the CARES funding. And if the chair approves, I would turn it over to Director of Teaching and Learning, Jennifer Thronson, to be able to speak about that specific use case.
Okay, thank you.
May I proceed, Chair?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Jennifer Thronson, Director of Teaching and Learning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about this request. Jeff, if you would mind moving to the funding request for Scribble. Thank you. So as a resource opportunity to support our teachers in this new environment where they are leveraging digital tools and potentially going to be experiencing the need for digital virtual learning, there is a great tool that has come to our attention that we would like to be able to provide our K-12 educators. It is a tool that will be primarily used in grades 4 through 12 as it's more appropriate in that space, but knowing we have different needs for different students, there may be some opportunities for teachers to leverage it in the K through 3 space. So the tool is a tech-based opportunity resource that can be used for writing, research, annotation, where, for example, a teacher can be annotating the text and showing her thoughts while the students are annotating the text all live and in real time, whether they are sitting there in the classroom together or out in the virtual learning environment. That ability to check for understanding in real time with multiple students, either in small groups or whole class, is really a great way to engage students more fully in the digital learning environment, as well as providing these interactive tools for our educators. And so the opportunity that we are seeking here is around $450,000 to afford statewide licenses for K-12 students and educators through the next school year as a support mechanism for them as they continue to achieve the core standards, support through these digital tools, and create collaborative, engaging environments for their students this school year. So I would be happy to answer any questions you might have about this requested contract.
Board Member Earl?
Yeah, so I know the legislature during the summer, they spoke about a little bit about a concern of buying large agreements with organizations, right? And then wondering whether they get used. And I just, with my own kids, with one of the schools that we're going through, that there's numerous resources, right? I mean, it's endless. So I'm just, how do we know the usability and whether this, I mean, this is nice. Is this a 1-year thing? You know, we're just doing it for this year. I looked through it a little bit. It looks like it's got some very interesting dynamics to it, but is it our responsibility at this time to do that for all schools? I'm just asking the question if this really is the best use of this money at this point in time. So,
absolutely. I think it's a very warranted question. And so given the kind of conditions we're in, we have the nice thing about this particular tool is it integrates into the tools that we already have for teachers. So it naturally integrates into Google, Microsoft, Canvas. They can use their Zoom accounts that they've just received from UATN as well. And so from a short-term solution, it would really give our teachers a powerful tool to use with students. It allows them to monitor student progress, be able to provide explicit feedback on how students are performing on particular tasks, as well as the kind of functionality that they can take with them beyond. So for example, even if this is a 1-year tool, kids who find value in this tool could actually take it into college for only $25 of their own kind of funding to be able to continue to use this as they move into their college years. And so at $1 per student, which is basically what we're paying in this case for our secondary students, is all we're paying for, but we're getting the elementary as kind of a free add-on. It really is potentially a short-term solution. The goal would be to work with UETN and their funding sources, which are not in education funds, and have a much smaller competition pool to extend this contract into a multi-year contract through their funding and their organization to allow for this to be a continued effort rather than a one-time bill.
Yeah. Board Member Hanson?
Similar questions, I guess, just on priority for use of the CARES funds. And wondered first where the demand for this came from. Was this just something that USB staff located, or is this something that teachers are asking for?
Right. I wasn't able to hear that. Is there someone else who could repeat that, or maybe a louder voice? Yeah. Sorry, board member.
Sure. I'm sorry. I don't know. The microphone's carrying.
Yeah.
So the question is, first, I guess it's with regard to CARES funds and priorities, but was this identified by USB staff as something that might be nice, or is this something that our teachers are asking for?
Great question. It's something that came to our awareness as just a new tool. We have a tool previously that has done a much smaller support in this space called Noodle Tools. We've used it for several years. It's a tool that does more just the research, but not a lot of the other components that this tool really has. This tool that we're looking at brings into a lot of what would take maybe 5 other software tools to create what is in this tool. So we have had requests over the years for tools that really allow us to engage students more in that academic progress related to writing, especially helping to advance their practice to be able to weave in multiple sources into their writing and to provide supports around how to do that in, referenced appropriate ways, either that's MLA or APA, all of those kind of bringing together that synthesis into this one tool. So we've had multiple requests related to, like, it'd be nice if we had this for writing. It'd be nice if we had a tool that would allow us to kind of crowdsource material. So in this case, Scribble allows teachers to create their own libraries for their course, that now that library is in a central location. Here are all the articles we're going to use for this unit. And now they're centralized in this space that kids can then annotate, they can reference in their own writing. And so it just brings together a lot of different tools that teachers have been having to use in lots of different programs, or not even having access to because we don't have programs that do that function or those functionalities. And so this really does address the academic concerns of the CARES funding and being able to support our students in developing those key research and writing and collaboration skills, while at the same time providing our educators with these dynamic tools that allow them to do their job more efficiently and kind of meet those virtual demands that we have right now and into the future. This tool is not meant to be hopefully a one-time thing. We would definitely partner with UETN to see if we could leverage their resources to continue the use of this tool moving forward.
Follow up, Chair,
Go ahead.
if I may. So with regard to, so our teachers are up and running now with whatever programs they're running. What are we looking at for training for this to allow teachers to, understand what it does and get that integrated? How long would that take, and how would we deploy that?
That's a great question. We're actually meeting, assuming this gets passed today, with the company tomorrow. We have a professional learning plan kind of developed, but in terms of timelines, it would be pretty rapid. If this is approved today, we can start providing professional learning immediately. So that would be through virtual webinars at this point to allow teachers to learn the tool, starting with the basic functionality and features that we think would be most helpful at this time, and then adding on throughout the fall additional features. Those would be recorded webinars, so if teachers cannot attend for any particular reason at the time that they are streamed live, they would then be able to watch them later, which would also allow for them, if they did attend and they're like, oh, wait, how do I do this? That they could go back to the recording and view it again. Some of the professional learning we anticipate offering is actually having teachers and librarians that are using this product across the country share how they're using it as kind of use case examples for teachers to get them to think innovatively of how to leverage these tools in their classrooms, as well as creating kind of building capacity in our local professional developers. So working with UEATN to develop their staff so that they can help to support working with our regional service centers to help train their technology available staff to be able to support in the regional areas. So we have kind of this comprehensive professional learning plan that's built into this to ensure that our teachers have the knowledge and skills needed to be able to leverage this tool as quickly as possible, with ongoing supports planned throughout the year, as well as kind of a menu of options depending on what our teachers are asking for, to be able to pull and say, okay, here's the tool that they really want to know more about, and having that flexibility of using teacher feedback. Part of the process is to actually have a kind of forum for teachers as they're working with the program to be able to submit their questions and needs so that we can be really responsive to what they are wanting to learn more about. And then our provider can provide that kind of content in future professional learning sessions. So it's meant to be kind of an on-demand, personalized approach that if a teacher wants to learn how to use the reference feature or how to help students bring in content from the internet and get that put into their library, that when they click on the link in 2 weeks, it didn't disappear, because in Scribble, you take the link and it publishes that product in the program. So many of us have looked at an article, read it, and then 2 weeks later it's gone. Well, Scribble actually downloads it into the system. So there's a lot of benefits that our teachers might see. Another might be annotation, where they're reading an article and they're writing their thoughts or asking questions about what they're reading, and being able to learn how to do that and how to support their students in that functionality, whether in whole group or small group. So a lot of that is in the plan of this approach. So please know that it is not just for the licenses, but also the professional learning required to make sure teachers can use the tool to the best of their advantage.
Just briefly, is this in use at any LEA in the state right now? Is anyone using this program now?
It is a relatively new product. We did ask that question. There are about 12 to 15 schools, depending on the school year, that have been using it. So we have a small conglomeration. It's only been out a few years. It just was awarded at the kind of technology award for being one of the most innovative tools in education right now. And so that's what brought it to our awareness, is just its kind of top ranking status out of all the digital tools in this space as a most valued product.
Thank you. I'm just going to quickly interject a thought in here as well. As this actually makes me want to cry just a little bit. Getting reading and writing online has been one of the most exasperating experiences of my life over the last couple of months. The idea of how do you interact with the student interacting with text in an online environment is really, really difficult. And so I think there is an opportunity here to quickly address the floundering that a lot of teachers are experiencing right now. Canvas is a great resource, but it's very flat. I don't know how to explain that. It's flat technologically, and so it's very difficult to create an interactive space just using Canvas. And so these types of tools, as I'm listening, I'm just like, okay, when is it going to be available? So anyways, I'm just going to interject that I think there is a lot of opportunity here. Superintendent wanted to quickly speak, and then we'll get to Board Member Gravitt.
Thank you, Chair Cummins. I think you just illustrated the point I wanted to make in my teacher advisory group this week. We talked about how overwhelmed the teachers are feeling, those who are working in face-to-face and an online platform both. And they're very overwhelmed by this very issue that they feel like they have to teach in two completely different ways. And they, many of them express that it would be great to be able to use tools where they could toggle back and forth between regular face-to-face instruction and online instead of doing these two disparate things. And they specifically mentioned writing and text. And so I'm assuming, unless Dr. Thronson tells me differently, that this can toggle back and forth face-to-face and online very well so that it would solve some of that problem that they're experiencing by being overwhelmed with two different ways of instructing completely. They're looking for this seamless way to be nimble back and forth.
Thank you, Superintendent. Board Member Gravitt?
Yeah, Brittany and Sid, you kind of just said what I am feeling. Like I feel like I'm about to get an early Christmas gift, so it makes me feel like I can't vote because I have a conflict of interest.
An unexpected happiness attack? Is that
yes,
what
I'm
you're
having an unexpected happiness attack, and I will tell you that if any time teachers need a little early Christmas gift right now, because I would have loved, I've looked at Scribble, and just because we don't have it, teachers know about Scribble, especially English language arts teachers, because for us to meet our standards, it's really hard to do that online. We need a way to annotate. We need a way to interact with the text. And so, I know we've had these debates before, like, should we all get Canvas? Remember that debate, those of you who are on the board, should we do this one program? There is something to be said about a uniformity of resources. And thank goodness we have it now. I mean, it's been a gift to have those things, and having Scribble would be a great, great gift to teachers. And I'm telling you, it would be used, not just now, it will continue to be used because kids are working digitally, and this makes me just get all shaky and giddy. So, again, not to sway you, but you should all vote for it when we make a motion. Thanks for listening.
Board Member Belknap?
Thank you. I'm going to be the naysayer here because I have a couple of concerns. Number one, Canvas is only flat because our teachers don't know how to use it correctly yet. They're so new to them. They don't know how to make it live and interactive, but it can be done. I still have questions that Scott asked, like who really was asking for this? I don't foresee that the field was asking us to purchase something for them and give it to them. I have real concerns about throwing something at teachers right now and saying, oh, we have something new you can try here. I think you'll enjoy it. And I don't know that the districts wouldn't be happier if they had money to purchase something that they're in need of, and we're purchasing it for every student in the state, and not every student in the state needs Scribble right now. And so what's going to be wasted? And to use the famous word, sorry, it's just horrible to use, but are we going to use this with fidelity, or is it going to be another one of those programs that we have online and we hope gets used?
Board Member Earl?
Yes, just a couple of questions or just a couple of comments. How do we prevent advertising? I'm curious about the privacy policy for student work on this particular program. I don't have a lot of knowledge about it, so I haven't delved into their privacy issues. So those are two, and then the other one is, I feel like we might be behind in this, and I'm sure there's some that know about it and could use it, but most teachers have already begun their processes for the year, and so this is a trying to redo that. So anyways, those are my questions, particularly the advertising, especially where you said that they could continue to pay for this as they go to college. I would be a little concerned that we are advertising for an entity, and then the privacy.
Board Member Newell?
I just wanted to speak to the fact that products like this add to skill sets that these students are going to be able to utilize and when they continue their lives and grow. We see in business, these types of tools continue to be innovative in the way that we can communicate and making us more effective. So I see this being a great tool for our students in their growth, not just at this period in their life, but continuously, because these skill sets are going to be critical as they continue to develop.
Thank you. And I think I'm going to expose my frailties at the moment, but from my perspective and from teachers I've heard in the teaching room, teachers are about one day ahead. And so when we say that teachers are set for the school year, we're about a day ahead and drowning just a little bit. And so resources right now are a benefit. And Canvas works when you have resources to connect into Canvas that are dynamic. And so opportunities to create and have resources that can connect into those learning platforms, I think, can be extremely beneficial. And so assuming that all the teachers are ready for the rest of the school year, some, I can bow to them, maybe, but I would say that most secondary teachers who are working both in an online platform and in a school platform are not that far ahead. So, Board Member Earl?
I do apologize if it sounded like everyone was. I get it, and this was not meant to be a derogatory statement, but often I think, as you have done, you probably, and others, you probably spent most of the summer trying to figure out how to make things work the best you could, and I realize it changes from day to day, so it was not intended to be taken in.
Understood, and it wasn't taken as a
yeah, and I
negative.
appreciate you making a comment, so.
Let's see, Board Member Belknap, your hand's up, question? Oh, hands down. Okay, great. I see no further discussion. The motion before us is that the board, we have a motion. Did somebody make a motion? Nobody made a motion, sorry. Okay, any other questions on this particular agenda item? Board Member Cannon.
I'll make a motion that the board approve USBE staff setting aside up to $452,000 from the Utah K-12 CARES SEA 10% set aside to pursue procurement for a K-12 license for Scribble to support digital learning.
Okay, the motion before us is to approve the USBE staff setting aside up to $452,000 from the Utah K-12 CARES SEA 10% set aside to pursue procurement of a K-12 license for Scribble to support digital learning. Any discussion to that motion? Board Member Lear.
Just one more question that I was listening for, as we've heard previously, but do we have any idea of how far that will go? How much that will help? Do we have any sense of that? That funding is what I mean by that.
Okay, Jennifer Thronson, did you want to speak to that question?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing again. Board Member Lear, would you repeat that one more time?
Sure. Do we have any idea of how far that amount of money will go? I definitely hear the pleas for help, and I want to do that, but I'm also wanting to be responsible and saying, is this going to help? If it only helps 10 teachers in the state, I'm not so supportive as if it helps 110,000. So.
Absolutely, great question. So for this particular one, it is a K-12 statewide license for all educators and students. So they would go to everyone who wants to use it. Obviously, we wouldn't be forcing it, but we would definitely have a lot of teachers using it. Currently, the contract is basically $1.25 per student in grades 6 through 12 with elementary thrown in at no cost. And so if we think about it from a cost point, for anything for $1.25, that is the benefit of having a statewide mass licensing contract, that if we went to the LEAs to have them procure this on their own, that volume discount that we get having a statewide contract is substantial, and they would be more close to like $5 a student. And so the value of this is, even if not every student and every teacher participates, the cost savings for us having even those that do by using a statewide procurement is of so much more value.
Thank
and
you.
I'll leave it at that.
I am all in. Thank you. That is very helpful in an answer.
Board Member Earl.
Just once again, the privacy in advertising, and maybe you just don't know, and if this end up passing, I would just ask that we are very thorough on, before we procure this, on our privacy. Please run it through our privacy people to make sure we're respecting of both teachers and students as well as families.
May I respond?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Absolutely. Great question. We've already negotiated that through the terms and conditions of the contract that they are ready to sign. And so it follows our typical privacy and protection requirements of the agency. So that part's pretty taken care of. And then the advertisement parts are really on the local education agencies of how they put their filters and blockers on like a Google search. So the program itself doesn't have any built-in advertisements. It's honestly just the digital platform of here's where you copy your text in, here's how you do your references. The teacher added a text for you to read. So there's nothing in the system that allows for any type of advertisement, nor is there a strategy for sharing with students that there is this ability to take it beyond, as the provider would not have student contact to be able to share that information.
Board Member Hanson.
Just wondered if we looked at any competing products before we made this selection, or how the selection process went.
Did you hear that question, Jennifer? Okay.
I'm going to try and turn up the sound on my computer one more time. I apologize. It is a struggle today.
Hitting the wrong tones, I'm sorry. I just wondered if during the selection process we looked at any competing products and decided this was superior. Was there a competition kind of before we selected this?
Yeah, great question. Board Chair, can I answer?
Yes, please.
So Board Member Hanson and full board, yes, we did consider other products. We have actually been using a different product for a number of years called Noodle Tools that we have a small contract with that is a statewide procurement as well, but it only does one piece of what we're looking at. It's really the research piece. What led us to choosing Scribble over the other ones that we looked at is that it does what it would take us like 4 or 5 other vendors to do in one product. So instead of having Noodle Tools for the procurement, a different tool for annotation, a different tool for writing, it's all together in one solution, which for our teachers and our students and our families, thinking about helping to navigate, that really helps. The other winning point of this that really led us to this pathway is the ability to interface with Canvas. It's a single sign-on, so once the kids are in Canvas, they can naturally just go into Scribble without having to sign in or have a different password. Same with Microsoft. So for our LEAs that have Microsoft communities, they're able to naturally interface with that. And so there's less burden on the students and our families and our teachers of creating additional logins and passwords with that interfacing. And so that is one of the features that, again, set this one apart from other potential products.
Board Member Marsh.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully you can hear me. I have a loud voice and a big mouth, so I think that this is something that's obvious through our work that we've done with constituents, with people in our educational areas, our schools, teachers, and that have contacted us. This is not something that's going to go away. Our level of use of the internet to teach, a mixed bag of face-to-face versus online, a lot of hybrid opportunities out there and in districts around. I think this is something that's going to make it much easier for us to be able to keep our kids as Board Member Newell stated, ready to go into the workforce and be ready to go into society at a higher level of use with media. So I would encourage everyone to vote for this.
I see no further hands. The motion before us is that the board approve USBE staff setting aside up to $452,000 from the Utah K-12 CARES SEA 10% set aside to pursue procurement for a K-12 license for Scribble to support digital learning. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Board Member Belknap.
No.
Board Member Bolter.
No.
Okay, Board Member Huntsman. Chair Huntsman, are you on?
Yes.
Okay.
My vote is a yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can the ayes please raise their hand? Okay, Board Member Newell, Board Member Cannon, Board Member Davis, Board Member Haynes, Board Member Gravitt, Board Member Lear, Board Member Marsh, Board Member Huntsman, and I'm an aye. That motion passes. Okay. Lorraine, do you need any additional information on that vote?
No, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Sarah, does that complete your presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Deputy Superintendent Jones, does that complete that agenda item?
Yes, Madam Chair, pending any other questions or concerns.
Okay. See no additional questions. Okay, we move to the
Chair?
next. Yes.
I'm sorry, Chair, I did raise my hand. I do have a question someone brought up. Are we going to have any issues with procurement on that? I just want to make sure that we're running that correctly through procurement.
Okay. Jennifer Thronson, do you want to speak to procurement on this item?
Yes, so we've already gone through the process, but the final piece was to get board approval. So the contract has been reviewed and agreed upon. The financial request is in the system, and so the final step was board approval. So we'll be able to move ahead with the contract as planned, given the board's approval today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next